Hello, welcome to ADSR ASMR. Today we're going to be making a patch on the Microkorg. Now this is a patch that I previously designed myself. It's sort of a pad string type sound with a few funky things going on with it. It sounds like this. So we're going to be using the BCR 2000 to edit the various parameters. This puts a lot more of the controls right at your fingertips versus having to sort of do a little menu diving here. We will be using a little of this because there are just certain things that are more convenient to do on here than on here, but in general, be using this guy. And we've got a nice little overlay here so we could see everything that we're going to be adjusting. Now let's start by initializing this patch. Do that by holding Shift, hitting number 3, then hitting 3 again. Okay. Now we'll start by choosing our oscillator 1 and 2. Actually, we'll start by just turning the levels of oscillator 1, 2, and the noise down, and just turning up oscillator 1. You see we got a few different shapes on here we could use. But for this patch, oscillator 1, I used one of the DWGS little samples. Now, for this case, we're going to have to use this guy so we know which one we're picking. So we're going to set this to oscillator 1. We're going to get control number 2, which selects which little sample this we're using, little waveform. And now when we turn this knob, we can see this cycles through all the different sounds. Now, the reason we set it up over here is because, as you can see on this one, this goes through different MIDI levels, which don't directly correspond to here. So if you're just going by ear, that's perfectly fine. You could just cycle through until you find one that you like. But since we're looking for a specific one, we're going to look over here, and we're looking for number 52. So let's pull that guy up. Okay, and now for oscillator number 2, we use a saw wave. So you just select that, and then we'll gradually bring that up. Okay, and for this we're going to set oscillator 1 to 115. And oscillator 2 at 127. And we're going to bring in a little noise too. We're going to bring that up to 30. For oscillator 2, we're going to bring the semitone up to 12. Okay, and so this is another parameter that we don't really get any readout on here. So we'll just go to oscillator 2, semitone. Now we'll just look at this number and we'll turn that up to 12. And tune we're going to bring up to 6. So that would be this guy. Okay, now for our envelope generator for the amp, we're going to have kind of a slower attack down to 34. And our decay is going to be 98. Okay. Sustain at 57. So you can hear sound kind of jumps out at you and then levels off a little quieter. And we're going to set our release to 88. So the sound just gradually slips away like that. Okay, next let's get to our filter. We're going to use a 12 dB low pass filter. So go to our filter type And again, obviously it's not going to tell us over here what filter we're using. So let's look at our filter type. As you can see, as we hit this button, it just cycles through the different ones. So we're going to use that one. And we're going to have our cutoff at 45. It's nice, already sounding a lot more mellow. I'm going to set our resonance to 83. So you can hear we get a nice little hint of that resonance in there. This is it at 0. Kind of brightens it up a little bit while still keeping it mellow. I'm going to set the keyboard tracking to 12. Oh, okay. Obviously, this is another thing we need to look in here. Key tracking. Okay, so we'll set that to 12. And we're going to set the envelope for the filter next. We want the sensitivity to -16. Okay. All right, now let's get our filter set up correctly. So again, we've got kind of a gradual attack, not too slow, 24. Decay is at 26. And our sustain is down at 0. And release at 94. All right, and that's the basis of the sound. And now basically we're going to go in and do a few things to get some movement out of the sound and get a few different things going on here. So first we're going to set our LFO 1. We're going to set this to triangle. So you can see we got the different shapes here. Set that to triangle. And we're going to set that to 8. Now, we're going to use LFO 1 to subtly change the pitch. So, again, we're going to go into patch number 1. And this is another thing that can be edited over here, but if you're specifically trying to do something and not just do it by ear, you really need to be looking at the display over here. So we want the source of patch 1 to be LFO1. Okay, so that's right. But as you can see over here, this would be source, destination, and the amount. Scroll through all the different ones here. But like I said, we want LFO1 as our source. Our destination is, again, it's going to be the pitch, but I would use this to turn through. Pitch. And the intensity is going to be +6. And it's kind of subtle, but you could hear the sound, the pitch of the sound kind of shifting slightly. I like to do that on a lot of my patches. It kind of gives it a feeling like the oscillators are slightly out of tune. Obviously, if I crank up the frequency of LFO1, it'll be more noticeable what's going on. Or if I crank up the intensity here. But I like something that's very subtle, just barely able to tell that it's happening. So that's why we set that very low and that very low. This gives it a very subtle shift in pitch. All right, for LFO2, I'm going to set this to saw wave. And we're going to set the frequency to 0. Then we're going to come to patch. So we're going to go to patch, I'm going to jump to patch 3, because we're going to do something else with patch 2 in just a minute. We're going to pick patch 3 over here. And now you can see we're changing that. So we want the source to be LFO2. We want our destination to be the amp. And we want the intensity to be +54. Now, right now you can hear that's not doing anything since LFO2 is set to 0. So that's why we're going to come over to patch 4. And this was a little something I wanted to attempt to do, sort of give it a echo or delay type sound without actually using the delay. So we're going to come to patch 4, and we're going to set our source to be the modulation wheel. Okay. We're going to set our destination to be LFO2. And we're going to set the intensity to +63. And one more quick thing we're going to do, which I don't believe I can access over here. So we're just going to go into voice, and we're going to go to, or no, sorry, we're going to go to pitch. And then we're going to go over to vibrato, and we're just going to set that to 0. So now when we move the mod wheel, it's not going to cause any vibrato, but what it's going to do is turn up the frequency of LFO2, which then in turn controls the amplitude of the sound. So you get an effect like this. So when it's all the way down, just had the sound, but then as we gradually turn it up, you can hear LFO2 causing the amplitude to go from 0 to the maximum. Now if we just play that, you'll hear it almost sounds like an echoing effect. So one more thing that we're going to do on here, which I don't believe can be accessed through any of these parameters. Oh wait, yes it can. So if we hit this button, we can control the amplitude level and pan using these two knobs. So we're going to set our amplitude to 80. It's because it was a little loud before. So you can hear we've got the amplitude under better control there. And now, just to add a little more expression to playing this sound, we're going to go to patch 2. And really you could do these in any order, but I'm just going by what I did here. So we'll go to patch 2, and we're going to set our patch 2. We're going to set our source to velocity. We're going to set the destination to the cutoff. And the amount we're going to set to plus 22. So now you can hear when I hit the key harder, that is going to open the filter more versus when I hit it softly. So you can hear when I hit the keys very gently, the cutoff is lower. when I hit it harder. Okay, now we're just going to put a couple final touches on it. I'm going to hit this button so we can edit the effects. And again, if we want to see our effect type, we're going to have to look at it over here. But we can control it with this one. Okay, so I think I was wrong. It doesn't appear that I can choose the effect on here, unless maybe I'm missing something. But anyway, we want this on flanger. So you'd hear things can get quite spacey there, but we're going to set the LFO speed to 33. And then we're going to dial back the depth to 77. So you can hear we've got a less overpowering use of it, use of this flanging effect. But just enough that it's going to add a nice amount of movement to the sound. And now for our delay, again, to pick the delay type, we need to go here. And we're going to use the left and right delay. So we'll get a nice little ping-ponging effect back and forth. Before we get to the delay, there's actually one more thing we need to adjust here. So again, it's not a feature that can be edited through here. At least I don't think it can. We're just going to go to both of our LFOs, go to LFO1, and key sync. We're just going to set that to voice. We're just going to do the same thing for LFO2. Okay, now back to delay. So we've got our left and right, and we're just going to dial the time back to 61. And the feedback down to 107. All right, and that's how you make that patch. And like I said, it's sort of like a pad or a string sound, but it's got this nice kind of weird, like underwater type sound to it. And then between the delay and turning up the mod wheel, get some really crazy things happening. Almost like water droplets.